County School System, January 11th, regular meeting. We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance done by Ms. Claire Maxwell.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will be having a moment of silence. Before we do, I would like to offer our sympathy to Patty and Derek Esser on the death of his mother. Would everyone please remember that family in your thoughts? Thank you. Board, before we get started, we're at a new year, and I just want to remind you all that we are following Robert's Rules of Order. If you wish to speak, all you have to do is say my name or Madam Chairman. Please don't raise your pinky. I might not see you. So just call on me, and I will call on you. I also want to remind the board that please turn your mic on and speak into the mic. I'm having a lot of people telling us they can't hear, so we want to speak into the mic. We will now move to number 4. Questions or comments? And now that my mic is off, please pay no attention to the woman behind the curtain. No questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Anyone wishing to abstain? Approval of the consent agenda. Do we have any questions on the consent agenda? I'll give you a moment to glance through it. No questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Anyone wishing to abstain? Thank you. We will now go to number 6, public comment. We have one guest, Mr. Nathan Bennett. Mr. Bennett, are you here? Okay. We have some special guests. Dr. Sullivan, would you like to introduce them?
So tonight we had what started off and scared me, but turned into a very much a celebration of the hard work and dedication of our staff. Very terrifying day as the director of schools to get that phone call, but our staff, especially at John Coleman, did an amazing job making sure that every student that came to us that day was able to come back to us on another day. And so we have Patty Easter here to present the Lifesaver Award for Casey Comer, a teacher at John Coleman Elementary who saved this little boy's life by doing CPR. And we have letters of commendation for Gerald Law, Taylor Mills, Alexandria Wilson, and Nurse Whitney Kay. So Patty, I'll turn it over to you to kind of explain a little bit.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Christy Brown to join me. She's our principal at John Coleman, and I'm going to have her walk you through the events of what happened that day.
Yeah, I typed it up, and I won't make eye contact because I might get emotional. So here we go. You're fine. Good afternoon, Director Sullivan and board members. I am Christy Brown, the principal of John Coleman Elementary, and I have the privilege to work with many amazing humans who go above and beyond every day for our students. But on September 27th, our first responder team went well above what is asked of them every day. Please allow me to share the event with you. In Ms. Christensen's integrated pre-K classroom, there are students with special needs and peer models. Lex Dunaway is one of the peer models in the class. After the morning class leaves for the day, the peer models take a rest break. Many fall asleep, as did Lex on this particular day. One of the educational assistants, Mrs. Maggie, began waking the peer models to get them ready for the afternoon class arrival and lunch. As she approached Lex to physically wake him, she rolled him over and noticed he was blue and vomit was coming out of his mouth. Miss Christensen, his teacher, immediately called a code blue for the first responders. That announcement initiated a code that had my first responders running to the location to begin assisting. Mrs. Casey Comer, another educational assistant in a separate integrated pre-K classroom, arrived on scene first and immediately checked for a pulse. There was not one. She began CPR and vomit was coming out of his mouth. He had aspirated on his vomit. The rest of the team arrived and assisted with CPR and continued to take down the information as 911 was called. He regained consciousness and was whimpering. Once he was conscious, I called for his mother, Mrs. Kirsten Dunaway, my structured setting teacher, to come to the IPK hallway. I met her in the hallway as she was running and quite pregnant. I had her stop and I explained what she was about to see. I stated that she was going to see her son lying on the floor, whimpering and unwell. We took some breaths and walked in together. While she bent down to see her son in crisis, the team continued to take his vitals until 911 could arrive. I called for his father, Mr. Stephen Dunaway, who is one of my ESL teachers, to come to the IPK hallway. As he entered, I saw his strength and ability to be calm in a very stressful situation. He was very calm and a rock in the most difficult situation a father and mother could find themselves in. He collected all the belongings so they could accompany their son to the hospital. 911 arrived and transported Lex along with Mrs. Dunaway to Stonecrest. Mr. Dunaway followed behind. Once they departed, our first responders, as well as my assistant principal, and I fell apart. We witnessed a true crisis, and our team and Mrs. Casey Comer did what they were taught. I truly feel the Lord worked through Casey and allowed her to save his life. We are a strong, closely bonded school family, and Lex is ours as well. Mr. and Mrs. Dunaway are part of our family, and our school was devastated by the crisis and so thankful that Lex made it through. I want to tell a quick side story. Casey was not always on the first responder team. She showed her care and concern last year when there was an accident in the room across the hallway and joined right in to help immediately. I had to tell her, let the first responders handle the incident as they were trained for it. I knew I needed to place her on that team. I believe the Lord let me be in that area to see her willingness to help, so I would place her on that team for the very reason that I've spoken about at length tonight. That day, Nurse Whitney and I joined the Dunaways at the hospital, and Sean and Patty came immediately to my school with their support team to counsel my first responders, his teacher, and EAs, as well as my assistant principal. There are no words to say how grateful and thankful I am for Nurse Whitney, my first responder team, and the staff at Central Office for the amazing care they took of Lex and my faculty and staff. Thank you.
I wondered what I was going to say when I got up here, but boy, I can't say anything to that. But one of the things that Ms. Shanna Groom and I were talking about this afternoon is, you know, we have these folks on our first responder teams, and I can remember from 2001 when I started the school system, this is one of the first things that we started doing years after, getting these groups put together, and, you know, and for law enforcement, my husband and I both debrief officers after critical incidents, and when we talk about that, you know, first responders are always doing something daily like this. And for a critical incident to happen to an officer in a short period of time, like it did for Ms. Coleman, is amazing. She had just taken her CPR class in July. Wow. In July. And her swift actions, taking that child up, his goosebumps, checking for a pulse, and immediately starting CPR, saved this little boy's life. But as a first responder team, when I responded there, 2 hours later, Casey's still running around her like an energized bunny because she had that adrenaline down. Most people get tired and they're just, you know, exhausted and ready to go to sleep, but she was like a little energizer bunny just running around. And I was like, wow, it's amazing. And then when I got there and I heard everything that this first responder did, they were amazingly, they did everything perfect. From grabbing him, seeing something was wrong, calling for the first responders, taking him, doing CPR, Nurse Whitney, they put the AED on him, continue the CPR, he takes a breath, they roll him to his side. 911 gets there, the EMS gets there, and they take him to the hospital. Picture perfect. If they hadn't done that, he wouldn't be here today. Our little guy right here. This is Mr. Lex. Say hi. But I'd like to ask Miss Casey to come on up. We at Central Office and my staff would like to present you with the Lifesaver Award. Gerald Wall. I have certificate of accommodations for you folks, for you guys present. But here's our challenge one. Taylor Mills. Alexandria Wilson. Let me tell you, this lady was tore up. And Nurse Whitney. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That really makes us feel great that this was taken care of in such a timely manner. Thank you. We'll wait till they get out. I know, it's terrifying. I have a grandson in integrated preschool, so I'm crying just a little. It's amazing. Let's let him close the door. Everybody left. Nobody cares. That's everybody in the whole room. Number 8, human resources.
So as we discussed at our work session, the 24-25 signing bonus incentive for hard-to-staff subject areas, signing bonus incentive for hard-to-staff subject areas submitted to the state each year is presented for board approval. Recommended motion to approve the signing bonus incentives for hard-to-staff subject areas for the 24-25 school year as presented.
Questions or comments? There are none. I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Anyone wishing to abstain? The motion passes. Legal.
So tab 3, this is the third time we are seeing these first at policy. We approved our first reading back in December. And so the above policies are recommended on the second read. So recommended motion to adopt the above policies on the second and final reading as presented. And happy to answer any questions on any specific ones if needed.
Do we have any questions? Comments? If there are none, I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Anyone wishing to abstain? The motion passes. Number 10, instruction.
So on tab 4, the first item we have before you is the ACT Boot Camp Teacher Training. 92 teachers across the district will train approximately 2,600 students from March 2nd to March 11th, 2024 to prepare students for the upcoming March 12th ACT test. This ACT boot camp opportunity will be provided to students free of charge, a $525 savings per student if they attend this boot camp independently. These 92 teachers will agree to an hourly rate of $50 for no more than 27 hours. 27 hours consist of 4 hours on February 3rd or February 10th, and 8 hours on Saturday, March 2nd. Additional after-school sessions on March 4th through 8th and March 11th will total 15 hours. All expenses will be paid with ESSER 3.0 funds, and teacher stipends will not exceed $127,031.85. Recommended motion to approve the teacher stipends for training and teaching of ACT boot camps for students not to exceed $127,031.85, and all expenses again will be paid with ESSER 3.0 funds.
Thank you. Have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Tidwell got that. Now, do we have a second? Did you get that, Ms. Darby? Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Anyone wishing to abstain? The motion to approve the teacher stipends passes. Charter review.
All right, next we have the Charter Review Committee. We have 2 potential charter applicants for this cycle, Rocket Ship K5 and Nova Smart Academy K8. You have those members listed before you, and then we have added, based on the conversation on Tuesday, Ms. Maxwell to Rocket Ship K5. And so recommended motion to approve the 2024 Charter Review Committee is presented. Once this is hopefully approved, then we'll go into training on the rubric and wait until the application is here for our next steps.
Okay. Questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Anyone wishing to abstain? Motion for Charter Review Committee passes. Next.
All right, the next one doesn't have a motion, but just is for information. This is the naming of Roy Waldron Annex, Church Street, and the Beatty properties. Curriculum and Instruction Department, with the assistance of the Director and Chairs, assembled a committee to rename the building currently serving as the Roy Waldron Annex, Church Street site, and Beatty property. These committees will select the name, colors, and mascot for the new school, and these were discussed on Tuesday night at the work session.
And we have sent out the emails to the people that we have chosen for the committee. So that's been taken care of. Number 11, financial matters.
The first one we have is RFP 23-08 Branding and Marketing Project. The RFP was mailed to 18 vendors and 11 did not respond. Committee of 6 individuals were on the panel to review all submitted bids. Recommended motion to award Rhodes Branding for best overall bid. Rhodes Branding bid of $85,100. To complete this project, accept any travel that may be needed. This is to be funded through ESSER 3.0.
Thank you. Questions? Comments? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Anyone wishing to abstain? Motion passes. Fund 141, budget amendments.
All right, the next one we looked at again on Tuesday night. So this is our mid-year Fund 141 budget amendment. This budget amendment cleans up expenditure line items at mid-year. On the revenue side, the budget is amended to reflect state grant allocations and additional TISA revenue. That is the voluntary pre-K grant and then the additional TISA outcome bonus. On the expenditure side, the larger items of this cleanup amendment reflect the increase in cost of school maintenance supplies and parts, instructional support supplies and materials, homebound 504 contracted services, maintenance contracted services, maintenance and instructional equipment. Also, the amendment includes adjustments to salary lines for additional approved ESL growth positions, bonuses for hard-to-staff schools, nursing growth positions, reclassified pay grade for behavioral EAs, and the transfer salaries to correct account codes. This amendment has a net increase of both current year revenue and expenditures of $3,729,367 with no use of fund balance. Recommended motion to amend Fund 141 to clean up revenue and expenditure line items for a net increase of $3,729,367 for both revenue and expenditure line items.
Questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Anyone wishing to abstain? The motion passes. Engineering and construction.
First one we have is a request for Riverdale High Stadium turf. Principal Tamara Blair is requested to move forward with a new synthetic turf field for the Riverdale High Stadium. Engineering Construction has reviewed the request and recommends approval. Funding will be from private donations at no cost to the board. Estimated budget is $1 million and a bank loan by Wilson Bank and Trust. Recommended motion to approve the Riverdale High request to install a synthetic turf field at no cost to the board is presented.
Thank you. Are there questions? Comments? I will entertain a motion.
I wholeheartedly call to approve.
Second.
Are we surprised? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Anyone wishing to abstain? Ms. Maxwell, we have just approved the Riverdale request to install synthetic turf field. Yes. Number 2.
This is the request for Oakland High School Career and Technical Education Agricultural Barn Construction. Principal John Marshall in the CTE department are requesting to build a barn for the FFA program and start a new innovative animal science facility. Engineering Construction has reviewed the request and is providing assistance with the plans and approval process with the city. This project will be funded through the Innovative Schools Grant and anticipated cost is $300,000. This project is recommended as presented at no cost to the board. Recommended motion to approve the new animal science barn facility at no cost to the board is presented. And as we discussed on Tuesday night, I anticipate other schools having CTE programs coming online with construction cost as well.
Is this animal science course going to be like a pre-vet course, or is it more an agricultural course? Like a pre-vet, you think?
It'll be part of an entire pathway. So that is one portion of it, but it's a little more even integrated than that. It should be pretty cool.
Sounds
good
cool.
plans.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Anyone wishing to abstain? We have approved the new animal science barn facility. Next.
Next is request for architectural design service. The board previously approved 4 architects to provide services for Rutherford County Schools at the December 2023 board meeting. Below are 7 projects of immediate need for design services. Number 1, the renovation of 2 classrooms at Eagleville High School for special education, budget $50,000 to $75,000. Laverne Primary, Roy Waldron Annex interior finishes, casework, and minor renovations, approximately 66,400 square feet, budget $1.5 to $2 million. 814 South Church Street remodel, 3-story building, 12,000 square feet, budget $1.5 million. Central Magnet STEM building renovation, 2,500 square feet, budget $350,000. Riverdale High Broadcasting classroom renovation, budget $50,000. Transition Academy, 2 buildings, approximately 3,000 square foot each, budget $750,000 each. Laverne High School addition, approximately 100,000 square feet each, budget of $40 million. As we talk, Trey Lee, Chief Operations Officer, is comfortable supporting the recommendation of Sherman Carter Barnhart Architects for projects 1-6 and Goodwin Mills Kaywood for the Laverne High School addition. Recommended motion to approve the recommended architects or each project separately or any combination of projects for any of the 4 architects previously approved. One thing that we did note is that projects are pending financial approval if needed based on specifics of each project. Some of these may have to come from different areas that will come back before the board to approve the actual funding of the project.
Okay. Comments or questions? Ms. Maxwell, you will notice that 3 years later, we are getting the STEM building. You know that's the one we've been trying to get for 3 years.
That's got to be that building.
So we really appreciate this because we brought this up 3 years ago and have been trying to
Finally.
to get it there, so we appreciate that. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Wait. Motion to approve what?
All of it. As presented.
As presented.
recommended.
Thank you. Motion to approve. Ms. Darby, can you second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Anyone wishing to abstain? Motion as presented is approved. Number 4.
Number 4 is a request for portable purchase and installation. It is my recommendation that we table this to the board meeting in March, the first board meeting in March, so that it allows us to send it out for bid and get the bids back.
Do I hear a motion to table?
Postpone, yes, postpone.
Postpone? Sorry, Ms. Darby. Do I hear a motion to postpone? Yes.
I think we need to have some more discussion on this. I really see the immediate need of getting something moving, but spending $2 million on portables, I'm not in favor of. But I do think we need to be looking at some other alternatives here. I would like to request that this board consider getting design together, an architect to come up with a design to be approved by the state, and just put that out to bid also. And even get it out to bid before March. Once it gets elected, as soon as possible.
I do too. I echo Mr. Coy's opinion on this, that if we can look for an alternative option where we can save costs, and then that the savings can be reinvested for other capital expenditures, such as another HVAC or whatever. So, and if this is an option that can be more of a sustainable long-term solution, then I will like to entertain looking at an alternative option, even though it's an outside-of-the-box type of thinking. I think that we do need to start looking into outside-of-the-box thinking, considering that we are getting ready to go before the county commissioners and ask a sizable amount of money for from them to approve or even to figure out how to fund big projects. So I agree with Mr. Coy.
Ms. Brown?
Mr. Tidwell?
Just to build off what you'd mentioned at the work session on Tuesday as well, I'd gotten the specs from Trey and Dr. Sullivan and tried to send that out to some contractors to see what kind of pricing they can come up, because it feels like we're kind of pigeonholed toward one manufacturer that keeps getting most of our business. So trying to get a little bit more competition on that. I agree with what you're saying, which is if we got to go through this state, which I guess that's what it sounds like, we got to get approval for any design, or is the design of the specs you sent, that's already been approved, right?
That is approved for a portable structure by that manufacturer. Anybody else would have a different spec. We usually have 8 to 10 different vendors that bid on these each year. If we're looking at a different type of structure, a more permanent type structure, then it would take a architect to design it along with an engineer, and dependent upon where you go, it's not considered portable, whether it's considered portable or not. And that's what we would have to get some type of ruling, I guess, from our local municipalities, because they're not going to let us utilize something, and I'm going to use a Dutch barn, like something you would see on the side of the street. They're not going to allow that to be put together and made as a classroom, because it doesn't meet all of the tornado codes and those kind of things. So we would have to, if you're talking about outside the box, it would be a different foundation, different type structure. We do have some portables that have been at their location for quite some time. So do we look at, after we get down the road, maybe we look at something that's, I hate to use the term permanent. A different type of structure that maybe is less costly to build. But if we're looking at it would have to be someone that could architect and engineer, that would be able to engineer a structure that can be built, moved, and secured. Because there's a specified tie-down system that meets the tornado codes that is specific to these type of facilities. So there's a little more to it than just the building. I'm not saying that we can't come up with an alternative option, but it would still need to fall into that category.
Yeah, just from quick conversations, there appears to be other routes and savings there, but the big holdup was making it portable, the cost of that and tying it down. I still think we should be looking at options. I agree with Mr. Young here, seeing everything that we can do. But I just wanted to voice what we found out recently.
Thank you. Dr. Sullivan, do you have something? Okay.
Just something we have to keep in mind is each municipality is going to give us a little bit of a different answer. We are looking at this in Smyrna, Laverne, and Murfreesboro, and the county, so 4 of the 5. So it may be a little slower than we want it to.
Ms. Sharp?
And if we go back to RSP and their suggestions about the classrooms that need to be put in the portables, that needs to play into that
It will.
as well.
It will. It's part of our budget discussion starting in a week and a half.
Ms. Breton?
Yes.
Thank you. I do have a couple more questions. So let's hypothetically, technically think that we are moving in that direction of an alternative. Let's say we something drop off the sky or whatever. I don't know what it is at this moment, but how long will it take to gather that research to figure out the cost, all the nuances that go into it to come up with a budget and then come back with a recommendation to the board to say, after gathering the research and looking at everything, the budget, and then for you to give us a recommendation that is feasible because it can meet codes and all that whole other stuff. So how long will it take for you, Mr. Trayley, to do that type of research?
My recommendation would be to put out an RFP for a firm to provide a licensed engineered building to us that meets our specification and meets the local code, and see what we get back. Because I can dream up all kinds of things, and we can hire an architect to design all kinds of things, but are we going to have contractors in the area that are going to be willing to build it? This is not what I would call, it's not a 100,000 square foot new school. It's 2 classrooms. It's basically, they're going to come back to us. It's probably going to be something that's stick frame or metal studs, conventional. It's going to be comparable to a trailer. We give them a similar specification to what we have, what we want. We could still utilize maybe this floor plan to give them an idea of lights, scale of air conditioning, those kind of things that we require, and then leave the design up to them. And they get their own architect, like a design build, let them, which is what we're doing with the portables that we're purchasing. It's their design, their license, they're certified by the state. It's all in one package. So if we did that and see if we get a feedback from local vendors to see if there's somebody out there that's willing to build it. That may be our first step, and we can probably do that in 3 to 4 weeks. I can have an RFP ready to go out probably in 5 to 10 days.
Okay. And then with that vein of thought of this hypothetical situation, will there be any costs associated with them having to come back and bring us something for us to look at? I know
they're going to have an idea of what that cost is going to be.
Okay.
We bid it like we would bid the portables. You give us a bid to build a building, licensed, certified, willing, ready to go.
And then from that, they give
Then we
you
can,
plans. And
then
all
we
of
could
that.
add,
Okay.
they're not going to, they've got engineers and architects that they will work with.
Okay, so based upon what you're saying, my understanding is that when we put it out to RFP, it won't be any different what we currently do with trying to get the portables, when we're bidding out the portables.
Correct.
Okay,
And we could put them both out at the same time
okay,
and then see what we get back. Otherwise, it's going to be us. We're going to be back in this situation. We're going to be hiring an architect to try and design something for us, and we're going to have to pay them. And then if when we bid it out, we may or may not get somebody to bid it. At least this way, we would know that they're interested enough that they've got their own architect, it meets our specification, and they're ready, they're interested in building it. And we would not be out anything on the front end.
Mr. Young, what do you think about that?
And that we go ahead and give Mr. Lee the authority to go ahead and start this bidding process, or both.
Okay, but I think we have to vote on the other motion first because we've had a motion to postpone. Okay, nobody said anything. Okay, just want to make sure. We got to the postpone part, but we didn't get to the motion part. Okay.
Second. I second.
So, Mr. Young, would you repeat what you said, please?
Instead of postponing, that we go ahead and give Trey Lee the opportunity to bid, put out an RFQ for a new design building. And also, I think we ought to go ahead and quote these portables and find out what we're doing with if we have to resort to that.
One RFP for the portables and one for something out of the box. Okay. Did you get all that? Okay. All right, Mr. Young has made a motion. Do I have a second? Did you second it? Okay. Any more questions or concerns? Yes,
I
sir.
have a question. So if we'd went with these portables, would they have been ready in the fall? Because we had to back up, right?
We talked yesterday that, or that was today, that wasn't yesterday, that was today. We talked today that we are very concerned about Riverdale and Laverne. We would try to get 4 moving as soon as possible. So even having to bid it back out, we'd try to get 2 for Laverne and 2 for Riverdale so that they're ready. They need more than that, but we've got to have a little bit of room for somebody to sit. So regardless of this going out, once it comes back from bid, if that's the desire of the board, we would probably go with trying to get the ones that we've used in the past to at least get us some seats for students and examine some of the others.
Could we not rent those?
As part of the RFP process, I can ask for a delivery schedule
Yes, that'd be great.
so that they could give us an idea. We could deliver X in June or X in August, and we would have some kind of time frame as to what we're looking at. Typically, it's a 6-month lead time.
Okay.
So if we ordered now, we would, in theory, have them in July. They usually show up the latter part of July, and we're scrambling. We had them all ready. The 10 that we did, we had them all ready but 4 when school started, and the other ones within 2 to 3 weeks, they were on board. So we're kind of at that tipping point, but we can ask that as part of the RFP. How quickly could you provide 1, and how quickly could you provide 10? I just asked the question.
I think that would be good to know that, because we want to look at all the context of it as well.
Yeah.
And if we end up going with a different design and we have more local help, then potentially we could possibly get them faster than that, if the process were to go smooth.
Optimistically, yes.
Very optimistically.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Ms.
Ms.
Brown.
Rosales?
Thank you. Trey Lee, when you were saying about getting the delivery estimates from, it's going to be for both, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted.
We'll ask, and I'm going to ask the question, if we were to purchase just 1, and if we were to purchase multiples, and leave the number out there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Sharp?
One last question, Mr. Lee. If they can't deliver those to us, can we rent them? Would we consider renting those for?
We could, yes. I'll look into that as well.
So you have your assignment, Mr. Lee? Do you need to leave now?
With millions of them.
He's got
I've
lots
got
of
it.
assignments.
Yeah, he's got lots of assignments. I've had a motion and a second. Are we ready? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Anyone wishing to abstain? The new motion passes. Okay, next.
Next, we have a request for Eagleville School. Principal Tim Pedigo is requested to install 400 square foot, I have messed this one up every time I've said it. 400 square foot sunshade for the elementary playground at a cost of $15,794.07. Funding for this project will be school-raised funds. Engineering Construction has reviewed the request and recommends approval. Recommended motion to approve the Eagleville Elementary School request is presented at no cost to the board as presented. And I see Mr. Pedigo here tonight, so thank you for being here.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Anyone wishing to abstain? The motion passes. Number 13, facilities.
Number 13 is the Rutherford County Schools, and this was kind of their description about the American Red Cross use of shelters. And so you'll see that we have looked at removing all elementary and middle schools and just replacing them with high schools. So recommended motions to approve the use of our high schools as a community shelter as part of an agreement with the Heart of Tennessee chapter of the American Red Cross from 24 through 26.
Questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Anyone wishing to abstain? Resolutions.
All right, Mr. Reed, if you want to come up, if they have any questions, I'll read kind of the motion. First, we have a resolution requesting TISA funding modifications. In 2023, the state legislature appropriated $35 million for fast growth stipends and fast growth infrastructure, but $37 million was needed for fast growth stipends alone. The insufficient appropriation resulted in a prorated data reduction for all school districts, which actually resulted in Rutherford County receiving less than it would have received for growth under the BEP. TISA also utilized the previous year's enrollment data rather than the current information, which results in fast-growing counties not receiving the full appropriation of funds which they should receive based on the number of actual students served. The attached resolution, we read that on Tuesday, is proposed for adoption to ask the state to address these issues. Recommended motion to approve the proposed resolution for TISA funding modifications.
We read those on Tuesday night. Do we have any questions to ask Mr. Reed?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I will say that I met with the core director today from our Mid-Cumberland region, and so she hasn't heard much of this because most districts in the state aren't growing. And so when I brought it up to her, she goes, that's not something I hear everywhere else because most districts aren't growing. In fact, most districts, Bledsoe was one that was mentioned, didn't expect to get anything because they didn't anticipate growing, and they actually got some funding. So they're concerned about how it was even calculated because they dropped an enrollment but got funding for fast growth. So there's some things that we definitely need to look at.
All right. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve as presented.
Second. Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Anyone wishing to abstain? Motion passes. Number 2.
So this is the resolution to TISA on capital funding. Under the BEP formula, square footage of classroom space needed for a student was factored in the allocation of funds, but TISA does not include the square footage of school space needed for a student in the TISA funding model. This absence of the square footage factor fails to provide needed funding for counties with rapid growth by not providing critical funds needed to offset the cost of new school facilities. Recommended motion to approve the proposed resolution to TISA for capital funding.
We also read, do you have
There's one
something to add
change
to
in the
that?
resolution
Oh, okay.
from Tuesday, and that's item number 3. And the new number 3 says that no restrictions be placed on TISA funds, restricting the funds from being used for capital spending, land acquisition, or new construction. And that was the item we discussed Tuesday night. So that's
Right,
the change
right.
made.
Just adding that, right?
Reworded it.
Reworded it, okay. Thank you. Questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Anyone wishing to abstain? Thank you. Number 3.
This is the Resolution on Education Freedom Scholarship Act, resolution in opposition to Education Freedom Scholarship Act. Governor Lee's proposed the enactment of the Education Freedom Scholarship Act, under which students would receive funding from the state to attend private schools instead of public schools. Under the proposed act, the state's proposing to pay $7,075 per student to attend private schools for the 24-25 school year for a minimum of 20,000 students and to expand the program thereafter to all students. The act creates a voucher-type system by which public funds are taken from the public school system to be spent on private schools. The act strips public schools of much-needed revenue and has the effect of creating a two-tier school system for Tennessee. Families of means will have the ability to supplement the state funds to pay for private school tuition, but lower-income families will not have the other required funds necessary to pay for private school tuition. Diverted funds are also unlikely to be replaced by the state, which will result in county governments having to increase property taxes to account for the lost revenue. Proposed resolution is moved to adopt the resolution in opposition to the Education Freedom Scholarship Act and to send to our state legislative delegation. Madam Chair, if you don't mind, can I make one quick statement?
Absolutely.
You're going to hear a lot of directors of schools and school boards talk about this. It is unique in that I think we all have a perspective. My own brother lives in Florida and takes an education savings account. And so that perspective was different. We had a lot of conversation over the last couple of days, as you can imagine, of us being together. What was a unique change for us is that for him to take that, he has homeschooled his daughter this year. They have to agree to get the funding to take the state test. And that is something that has not been mentioned so far. So that is something Florida does that I was shocked to hear about. But he, in order to take the funding, has to agree to take the state test. So it's just a caveat that hasn't been mentioned here in Tennessee that I thought was interesting that Florida was doing.
Very interesting.
I suspect that's a session for 25.
Might be.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed, no. Anyone wishing to abstain?
Abstain.
Did you catch that? Okay. Motion passes. Number 15, insurance. Is there anything you want to tell us?
Okay. 16, financial report.
Yeah, financial report. Just to give you guys an update on where we need to be. So we have the Beatty property elementary school will come in for bid next Thursday. We have a special called meeting the Monday following so that we can then get it to Health and Ed the next Tuesday. Then budget follows up, and I'll send this in an email, but I just wanted to remind you that that's coming quickly. In a conversation with, and that's why I said Tralee has a lot of projects, and I don't know that we can make this one work, but we're going to try. In a conversation with our county finance director today, they are changing the time of when they're going to the bond market. They'd anticipated going in the fall. Instead, they're going to go in the spring. And so we were asked to quickly move on Laverne High School and land if we wanted it. And so, of course, the county finance director cannot promise what the board or what the county commission will do, but that is going to increase our timeline and our need exponentially. Because in order for us to get it through in April, we pretty much have to have everything done in the next 60 to 90 days, which is not great, but it is, if we want it, I think that was a nice avenue to say, here's an available way for you to get it done. And so I asked Trey, as soon as architects were approved today, to talk to them tomorrow and see how quickly can we get plans done so that we can send it out for bid and move on it ASAP. And then I met with Mr. Reed. I think we've all talked about a date to tour property so that we can make some offers and get things moving so that we can have some true plans of where we're going. So that kind of covers the financial report and the director's update. I kind of thought it was good news. It's going to require a little bit of a change in our mindset of having to shift and move things quickly, but it's nice to finally get some things moving.
Absolutely. And that was your director's update?
Couple quick things about director's update.
Okay.
Let me go back to my drafts of what I was about to write. So only other thing I wanted to mention, of course, is we are watching weather nonstop for next week. Also watching it tomorrow as well. So we got it. So we are looking at wind for tomorrow. As of right now, districts aren't looking at canceling, but it's something we are watching because it is very close. We've met with our transportation team, Trey, our emergency management team, multiple times today. It is very high for high-profile vehicles like our buses. We talked with EMS today as well. All directors are going to look at it again in the morning. So that's for tomorrow. Next week, of course, we have potential snow, but also extremely cold weather. And so we are going to make sure all of our buildings are running their heat 24/7, which is going to increase our utility cost, but we would much rather increase our utility cost than have some parts go down because we weren't running them. So I do anticipate that going up and know that as soon as we make decisions, I don't anticipate making a decision for next week until Sunday afternoon at the earliest. We like to see if there's a winter weather warning, and if there's a winter weather warning or winter storm warning, that usually lets us know if it covers through the next day. We are out of school on Monday already. We currently really have 9 inclement weather days we can use. I say 9. We have 8 inclement weather days plus a teacher work day in March. So that teacher work day in March we have not used yet. So as of right now, we have 9. So that's something we have to watch.
Questions? Okay, thank you. Anything? Yes. Okay.
First, I need to clarify why I've abstained. My husband is a commissioner. He's appointed by the governor, and this is a governor-led initiative, and therefore I abstain. In regards to the legislation, obviously they started this week, and so there's a lot of commotion happening because of what's happening. A lot of rules have changed, and so right now they're just not looking at legislation that's coming up for debate. Is just really getting the House in order of what rules they're going to follow and protocols and things of that. So that's really what a lot has been engaging. However, there is a meeting that we're going to be having on January 18th with Representative Sparks, and we're going to be unveiling to him our legislative agenda of what the board wants for them to champion for us, and also what we are approving and advocating for. And so all these resolutions that we saw tonight, and the one that we voted on back in November, I believe. So there's the resolution for the the training for active shooter training for the substitute teachers, the resolution for giving a stiffer penalty for anyone in the school system, a student that says anything of a kind about a bomb threat, making it a class felony. The resolution about the letter grade A through F, in adding a restriction of how to count special population in this regard. Is the English learners. So they will be counted on one side of the calculate. They will not be counted on the achievement side, but they will be counted on the growth side. And then all these three motions as well, the resolution as well, the modifications to the TISA, and when it comes to adjusting the numbers when we're getting enrollment, new enrollment after the start of the school year, and then adding the classroom space factor, and then the stands on the ESA program. So that will be presented and unveiled that day, and then I will be going up to the Capitol and updating and then advocating for that. So that's what will be our meeting will be about. And I believe he's invited other legislators that are in our district. So hopefully we'll have a full house of them present there. But I believe it's going to be a good conversation.
I spoke to his office this past week. They did reiterate they want this to be a good casual conversation, not accusatory or, anything like that. They just want to know our thoughts, basically. So this should be a good meeting in which we can share our feelings and our thoughts about some of the things that are going on, although I think we've done an excellent job with our resolutions showing what we thought was most important. Ms. Sharp?
I have an update on that. I spoke with Representative Stevens last night on the way to the meeting that they had with the county commissioners last night, and the previous resolutions that we had submitted to them have already been submitted as law by Representative Stevens. So the
That's
restrictions for the
awesome.
driver's license and the sub-training and the achievement and everything have already been submitted.
That's awesome. I think it shows a great deal of proactive forethought on our thought, and I just really appreciate what the board has done with that. General discussion?
Ms. Bratton?
Yes, sir.
I have a question, not to go against what was said earlier about the vote for the signing bonus. It's just more of a clarity. The retirees must teach in a hard staff certified area. They'll receive a $5,000 bonus.
That's correct.
For,
That's what we've been giving.
that is awesome. Is that been broadcast out there? Because I think that would
Yes, sir.
entertain
Yes,
A little
sir,
bit more
it is.
minds.
You'd think they'd be breaking our door
I
down.
would thought so.
Yeah.
We email every retiree that has worked for us previously and anyone we have email address, and then we broadcast it out as well.
Are we getting good
Oh, yes,
feedback?
they have saved us.
Oh, awesome.
Absolutely, they've saved us.
That's wonderful.
Being in trouble, yep. Yeah, we'd be in trouble.
Paid every 2 weeks.
I mean, that's cheap for qualified, high-end education.
Sure it is.
With that many years' experience, and then sometimes they keep their benefits they already had with insurance, and so it actually probably ends up being cheaper than hiring a new teacher, so.
And Dr. Anthony, when we went back and we looked at tenure, of reinstating tenure for people that came back from other counties, and we put in the 1 year, I got an email from a friend of mine in another county who has gone back as a retiree, not with this extra money, just went back as a retiree, and his tenure will not be reinstated for 2 years, and he wants me to help him compose a letter to see if he can get his tenure back after 1 year of teaching. So things that we've done have really, really helped us to build a cadre of good experienced teachers to help us out. I really appreciate what we've done.
Madam Chairman, that segue into a article that I read on my phone, breaking news, Sumner County is trying to one-up us.
How dare them,
They really are.
really?
They want to start their sped teachers at 60,000. So we have upped the ante, and they have
More
raised
power
it.
to them.
So, yeah, obviously, we're in a
I'd
good
love to do
spot.
that, but I don't have a way to do
I
that.
don't know that this will get approved, but that is what they have proposed. So.
Wow, that's awesome.
They don't have near as many as we do.
No, they don't.
No, they don't.
But I know that they looked at us and said, we've got to do better than other.
Well, I know our salary schedule is out there and people are talking about it because I know, because I was at the gym the other day. I wasn't exercising, don't get excited, I was joining. And, I was just there. And I ran into someone who teaches in Williamson County. And he looked at me and he said, I would like to come home to Rutherford County. You all pay a lot better. I said, yes, we do. Come on down. Anyone else?
Yes, Ms. Bratton. I wanted to, Dr. Sullivan, before I say something really amazing and give a praise for our students, but now that we're getting ready to start our budget and working on that, I believe there was a conversation a while ago, where we were discussing ESL, the program, and then within the teachers or EAs, and I believe there was a discussion around giving a little bit more money for those EAs that are bilingual, because we are growing so fast, and this population, it is growing. It's not just Spanish speakers, but we also have Arabic as well, and I do see a value in having bilingual EAs in our buildings, because these kids are coming and they do not understand the language, and some of them are having a hard time really, they're just struggling, and I believe it's someone that understood the language that can help them and carry the hand a little bit will be beneficial. And I don't think we've ever talked about this, but I would like for the board to even consider giving an incentive for EAs that are working in a program like a BEST, because they're dealing with kids with behavior, like severe behavior. If there's some incentives there to give them a little bit more money, because they're doing, every EA is amazing, is wonderful, and I don't want to downgrade anyone's position at all by any means, but being involved in the BEST program, there's some skill sets that are required in handling these type of kids in that particular, when they are focused on that, like that is their focus. So I don't know if that's a discussion that the board wants to explore, but.
They're already on a higher pay scale.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. Well, great. Well, then we're ahead of the game.
Not the bilingual portion, but.
Yeah, the bilingual portion is It's a good idea.
I stupidly assumed that ESL and SPED, because they're aligned quite, I thought that they did, that they were on the same as SPED EAs, but they're not. That may be something we do need to look at.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. And my other thing I wanted to say is that we've had these kids that have gone through the capstone program, and they presented, and they've done amazing. Well, two of our young people that haven't presented, but they were there at their showcase, actually were invited by my husband actually, to present their capstone program in front of the governor's first senior advisor.
Ooh.
Yes.
Oh, from Blackman.
Yes, from Blackman, from Blackman High School. And so it was very fruitful and engaging conversation. And we should be really proud of ourselves of the kinds of the quality of kids that are coming through our high schools and what they're learning, because they really impressed everyone that was there. And it was a room full of about 30 people.
That is wonderful. Do we ask for the Great American Shake children to come in February? Are we on that? Okay, just want to make sure, because I know that was one of your special things, and you wanted to make sure that we get them here, Mr. Tidwell. So we'll take care of that in February, okay?
I got one more thing, Ms. Bratton, if that's okay. I know we talked about it at the work session on Tuesday, but I would like to have maybe some further exploration as well on what Ms. Sharp had said about the bi-monthly. I mean, the pay scale.
Okay.
Like you said, we are competitive in a lot of areas. Let's just not let off the gas any. Let's just keep it going. If it's possible, I know County Commission has to approve that.
It's not, county finance director has to agree. He controls all payroll procedures. So he would probably have to add staff, and that's where our hangup has been. But we continue to work with it because he knows that's something we want. So
does that seem feasible, do you think?
I don't think it'll happen for next year, because next year's thing is he's trying to, right now our brand new teachers don't get paid till September. And so we're trying to get them paid in August 1st.
Ooh.
That's the first one.
That's big.
Yeah, because if we don't start till August 1st and our first payroll is the 20th, it's hard for our staff and their staff to get everybody entered when you have 700 or 800 different transactions. But I advocate for that as well, because that is much more friendly for everybody.
Just maybe just
agree.
kind of keep pressing on the gas pedal on
We do.
that, and
Coming
just
from-
keep bringing it up.
Coming
I
from the
think.
banking area that provided those products, I sold them and trained on them, it should be very easy, something very easy for them to do.
Got two quick more things.
Less,
All right.
less paper.
Dr. Sullivan?
Yeah, Dr. Martin and Mr. Runyon are at the county commission meetings. That's why they're not here, and then we're going to go switch in just a minute. And then second, we are updating our inclement weather procedures to, you may have heard, so certified staff had one and then classified staff had another. We're making those the same, and then adding the ability for inclement weather, instead of just saying central offices open or closed, if it's available to be able to remote work as well, so that we're changing that procedure. That'll go out in just a little while.
I think
So if
that's
you heard
good.
any angst, so we'll fix the angst.
So the time for everybody to arrive is the same for
Yes,
both?
yep.
Okay, 'cause
That
I
was an
got-
inadvertent, so
Yeah,
we'll
I
fix
thought it
that.
was, yeah.
Oh, we fixed it.
Gonna be fixed.
Anyone else?
Yes, one
Yes,
quick
sir.
thing. I know you mentioned Mike and the work that the maintenance staff does, but Mike, I don't know if everybody knows Mike. He sits behind me. Normally, he's backed up 2 rows tonight. This is Mike Walls. He's our director of maintenance. I've also got 3 project managers here tonight, Dylan, Mike, and Tony. So these guys do a lot for us, and right now they're all stepping and fetching. So anyway, they don't usually come to board meetings, but I've instituted a new rule. They have to attend 2 or 3 times a year now, so.
Could
y'all
you
don't know
fellas
them. You hear
stand
their
for us
names,
so
but
we
they-
can see who you are? Thank you. Thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you for
We
everything you guys
appreciate it.
do. Appreciate you.
I personally want to thank Dylan, because I'm still employed in this district, because he got into the middle of me and a project manager for a company when I was opening Rocky Fork Middle, so greatly appreciate you being the mediator. Wasn't a finer moment in my career, we'll leave it at that.
Anyone else? No one else? Ms. Darby?
Someone has a birthday next week.
Oh, Yes.
Happy birthday, Mrs. Bratton.
Thank you. Thank you.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We are adjourned.